Okay. People are starting to come in now. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome as you're coming in. For those of you just popping in, feel free to say welcome in the chat. Let us know where you're connecting from. And yeah, hello. All right, we see people coming in. Okay, so I will get this started right away. I'll introduce myself in case you don't know me. My name is Renee Roberts. I am a functional nutrition and vitality coach and founder of Nourish to Live RX. And I help you sleep better, gain more energy, and just feel amazing. So welcome to my webinar series, my guest speaker series. Today, I want to welcome Tracey Gates. I will give you a little bit of information about her in a minute, but I do want to go over a few logistics first. Feel free to ask questions during our talk. You can type them in the chat or you can type them in the Q&A box. If you would like to come on and ask your question live, just raise your hand and we'll bring you on audio and you can ask your question live if you have anything for Tracey or myself. So without further ado, let's go through this. I'm going to welcome Tracey Gates. She's going to talk tonight about sharing the energizing and uplifting and connecting power of writing unexpected letters of appreciation. So Tracey is a certified life and wellness coach through the Health Coach Institute. Her passion for nurturing relationships has been a lifelong study. Through her compassionate listening and deep sense of empathy, Tracey helps people become aware of their possibilities. She creates a warm and safe environment for people to show up and open up on a journey of transformation. In addition to personal coaching, Tracey is dedicated to spreading her message of kindness through her workshop called A Few Kind Words. Thank you, Tracey, for joining us tonight. I'm super excited to hear about your chat, and I really want to learn about how this works. So I know we had a little bit of chat a number of months ago, and that's why I wanted to bring you on here. So welcome. And I'm going to pass the floor over to you to talk about yourself and talk about your journey.
Great. Thank you, Renee. I'm so impressed with your podcast, and I'm very grateful to be sharing this time together. So welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you took some time out of your busy day to join us. And what I'm going to share with you all today is something that is really simple and really overlooked, and something that I think is going to enrich your life if you choose to embark on that. And all you have to do is start sharing the kind thoughts that you have. So I'll tell you a little bit more about myself quickly. As Renee said, I am a life and wellness coach, and I love what I do. I call myself a kindness ambassador. I am a mother and a grandmother. I am a friend. I am a teacher. I'm a wife, and I feel very blessed in my life. But what I love most to do with people is to authentically and deeply connect with people. That's what really gets me excited. And what I have come to realize in my practice is that I am not alone in that, that really that is what everybody wants. We all just want to know that we matter. And what A Few Kind Words does is just bring it to the forefront of a way to connect that is really accessible to everybody. So before I really get into the meat of that, I just want to take a few seconds to center ourselves. So let's just all take a deep breath. And I just want to give you all permission to let go. You know, this is meant to be energizing and fun. This hour that we're going to spend together is not meant to be work. What I hope that I am offering you during this holiday season is a gift to yourself to spend a lot of time, to spend this next hour in positivity. And I know that that is something that is not all that easy to find these days. So this is just an hour of positivity for you. So I have a vision, and that vision is to let people everywhere know that they matter through writing unexpected letters of appreciation. And my greatest wish in this world is that that would become everybody's vision. You know, there is so much depleting and depressing news out there all the time. And what I want to offer you tonight is a practice that can really be a reprieve from all that negativity that's out there. And the beauty of what I want to talk about is that you do not need any advanced degree. You don't need any degree at all. You don't need to have good penmanship. You don't need to be an English major. All you need to do is get out of your thinking brain and spend a little more time in your heart center. Now, I know that that can sound very corny to some people, but what I mean by that is that you just have to start thinking from the heart and sharing kind thoughts that you have. It's a game changer. And the saddest part of all is that it is really rarely done. So what I want to do right now is to share a story with you. And it's a story that happened to me actually a few years ago now, when I was on a journey of writing an unexpected letter to a different person every day for 1 year. And it happened in the most unexpected of places when I was called for jury duty. So I'm guessing that most of you have at some time in your life gotten that summons in the mail where you are called for jury duty. So I live outside of Princeton, New Jersey, and I went to the Mercer County Courthouse in Trenton, New Jersey. And I brought with me the piece of paper that was sent to me, and it had a barcode on it. And so I had to wait on a long line and check in with 2 women who were sitting at a desk. And there were probably 150, 200 people who were called that day. And when it was my turn, I got up to the front of the line. I handed my paperwork to the woman. She scanned me in. And then she said, she stopped and she looked up at me and she said, "Good morning, Tracey. We're so happy to have you here. Please take a seat wherever you want. And when everyone's checked in, we'll tell you what the day is going to look like." And it just really resonated with me. I was not expecting to hear a personal greeting. I wasn't expecting eye contact. It just seemed kind of like a cattle call environment. So I sat in the front of the room and I watched these 2 women check in, 100 people. And they addressed every single person by name. And it gave eye contact to everybody as well. So when everybody was seated, one of the women stood up and she proceeded to tell us what the day was going to look like. And I was surprised a couple more times. Number one, because she was absolutely hilarious. I was not expecting to laugh in the courthouse. She told us also how deeply grateful she was for our time. And that was something that really meant a lot to me. She said, "I know that most people don't really want to come to jury duty and you have to rearrange your schedule." And she was deeply appreciative of our time. And then she told us that we had to check back in when we were finished with our jury duty, or else we would be arrested. And then finally, she told us that she had done the same job for 28 years. And I was really struck by that because it didn't seem like a job that maybe was that interesting. She was doing the same thing day after day. And here she was doing it with a joyful presence about her. So she went and sat back down, and I was having all these nice thoughts about her. And at this point, I was keeping note cards in my purse. So I took out my note card and I actually wrote a note to her. And first I went to the other woman and I found out what the woman's name was. And it was Miss Davis. So I just wrote Miss Davis a note. And I told her that I appreciated how she conducted this whole situation. So then I was called out for my jury and I left the note. She didn't see me put it on her desk, but I left it on her desk for her. So the next day I was released from my jury. And because I did not want to be arrested, I went back into the room. And the same 2 women were sitting there. And I checked out with not Miss Davis, the other woman. And when she scanned my name in, she said, "Wait a minute, don't go." And she turned around and she tapped Miss Davis on the shoulder. And Miss Davis looked at me and she said, "You come here," like this. And there's now 200 people for the next day sitting in this room. And she walks around her desk and she comes over to me. And this is pre-COVID. And she gives me a 30-second hug. It's a hug that I will remember for the rest of my life. And she said, "Nobody has ever done that for me before." She said, "You made not only my day, you made my week, my month, my year." I went home, I shared it with my family, and I am now going to keep note cards in my purse and I'm going to pay it forward. And, I left that courthouse smiling from ear to ear. It was an unexpected connection that would have been a missed opportunity had I not taken that time. And I shared this story a while ago at a workshop, and one of the women said, "I have jury duty in a few weeks." And so she went to jury duty and she asked if Miss Davis was there, and she was. And she went up and told her about me. And Miss Davis said, here's the letter. And it was 9 months after I had been there, and she kept it on her desk. So,
Wow.
you know, my goal for all of you is to experience that same energizing, exhilarating sense of connection when you just start to take the time to notice and to share your appreciations with people. And, you know, it's possible. All of you can feel that same sort of exhilaration when you start doing this practice in your own life. These are not long letters. This is not, you're not writing a thesis, you know, it's a note. And it can change somebody's day, life, year, as Miss Davis said. So I wonder, you know, as you all are listening to this, if you might just reflect back in your own life, and have you ever received an unexpected letter of appreciation, or an unexpected act of appreciation? And if so, you know, how did it make you feel? So it's just something to think about, because usually if that has happened to you, it's not something that you forget. So I want you all now to imagine going to your mailbox, and amongst the bills and the circulars, there's a handwritten letter. It's not your birthday. It's not a holiday. You haven't just won some award. It's not an invitation. And you open it up, and somebody has taken the time to just write to you what they admire or appreciate about you. And I can tell you from a lot of personal experience, some things that are definitely going to happen. So number one, you're going to read that letter the second time, maybe even a third time. Your mood is going to get better. You are most likely going to share it with somebody. Oftentimes, you're going to get some tears. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to save that letter. And that's really that's part of the beauty of a handwritten letter. I know it sounds very dated, but it's much easier to save a handwritten letter than it is to make a copy of an email or to save a text. And the reason that I know all these things that are going to happen to you is because I spent a year writing. I challenged myself to write an unexpected letter of appreciation every day to a different person. And it changed my life. It changed my life in ways that I never, ever expected. And it changed it in really empowering ways that I will share with you. But there's a quote by somebody I think that we've all heard of, and you probably know this quote, and it's by Maya Angelou. And she says, people will forget how you made them, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And it's something that really resonates with me. I think it's so much more important how we treat people than what we do as a job, what our resume says. I mean, that's why I actually like to call myself a kindness ambassador before I call myself a life and wellness coach. And I love being a life and wellness coach, but a kindness ambassador is something that maybe that, you know, I would rather be remembered for. And, you know, I think that kindness is in all its forms, written and acts of kindness. Kindness is empowering. It's energizing. It's completely contagious. And what it does is it brings you into the present moment, right? You can't be the recipient of kindness or the giver of kindness and, you know, be doing your to-do list at the same time. It kind of stops you in your tracks. You know, if somebody holds the door for you, often it sort of startles you into, oh, thank you very much. One thing that if you haven't tried this already, I really hope that you will do it. And that is to buy coffee for the person on line behind you. It's absolutely hilarious because the person will get totally uncomfortable and won't really know what to do with that situation. And, you know, they'll turn around and like, me, like, why are you doing that? And then you have to sort of wait while their coffee is being made. So you end up having some conversation, and truly you both will leave feeling better for the day. So in order for you to, for me to really continue talking about a few kind words, I need to tell you about the origin of a few kind words. And in order to do that, I need to introduce you to somebody who's very important in my life. This is my father, Buzz Willis, and me when I was 3 years old. And my dad was just always a very special person in my life. He's just, a bundle of love, the most non-judgmental person I've ever met. Caring, funny, but he had one incredibly annoying habit that everybody in our family was driven crazy by. And that is, whenever he was asked what he wanted for his birthday or for Christmas, he would say 100% of the time, all I want is a few kind words. And we hated that, because how do you wrap that up, right? What do you do with that? So we'd say, Dad, we love you, but do you need some socks? Do you need a tie? I bought him monogrammed golf tees. My sister and I, one year, we bought him a puppy. We wanted the puppy, but we bought Dad a puppy. And my poor dad just wanted to be told that, he was appreciated. And instead he got a little golden retriever that he named Bogey after his favorite golf game. But then, fast forward, I'm 24 years old and I am newly engaged for 4 weeks to my wonderful husband, Tom. We're both living in separate apartments in Boston. And it's fairly early one Saturday morning, and Tom just happens to be over and the phone rings. And he went to answer the phone in my apartment. And I said, do not answer the phone. That could be my mother. And you definitely are not supposed to be here. So I pick up the phone and I hear my mother's voice. And she says, Tracey. And so I cover the receiver and I'm sort of laughing to Tom, mouthing like, oh my God, it's my mother. I'm so glad you didn't answer the phone. And then she says 3 words that changed my life forever. And she said, honey, Daddy died. Just took the breath right out of me. And just like in the movies, I actually fell to my knees and just started screaming. And my precious, adored father had passed away of a heart attack on the tennis court, winning in the second set. He was 67. I was 24. And he would never get to walk me down the aisle. And I would never get to give him a few kind words. And even at his funeral, my brother and my sister titled their eulogy to him A Few Kind Words. And they did this wonderful list of words and activities that were really special to my dad. Family and friends and tennis and golf, dogs, vodka, pretzels. But even then, I don't think any of us really understood what it was that my dad was actually asking for. And it wasn't until I became a life and wellness coach a number of decades later that it really became very apparent to me what my father was actually asking for when he always asked for a few kind words. He was brave enough to ask for affirmation and appreciation. And so I have decided a few years ago that I would, as a legacy to my father, I would dedicate the rest of my life to spreading his mission of positivity and sort of being part of the change for good, as opposed to the negative stuff in this world. And I would create this workshop called A Few Kind Words, and I would help people to feel empowered around sharing a few kind words. So my dad, it wasn't particularly important that it be in the written form. That's the way that I am choosing to do this now. But it's been a gift to me, and I hope it can be a gift to you as well. So I want to share also a Native American parable that sort of touches my heart. And it goes like this. There's an old grandfather who feels like he has 2 wolves fighting in his heart. One is the angry, vengeful wolf, and one is the loving, kind wolf. And when he is asked which wolf is going to win the fight in his heart, he says, the one that I feed. And I think that's powerful, because it just helps us all think about which wolf are we feeding in our hearts. And so if we were in person, I would ask for somebody to raise their hand, and maybe you can do it on here as well. But I want to ask the question, where does kindness begin? Where should kindness begin? I don't know if anybody wants to answer that, but I will answer that for you, because I'm sure you all know the answer. And that is, it should begin with ourselves. So often we talk to ourselves in a way that I would hope we would actually never talk to our best friend, to our children, to our spouse. We're highly critical of ourselves. And I want to encourage you all to cut yourself a little slack. I want to let you in on a little secret. Every single one of us is worthy of respect and kindness. And when we can start to treat ourselves with that respect and kindness, it then becomes that much easier to share that kindness out into the world. So the next time that you start beating yourself up about something, I want you to think about, what would you say to your best friend? And try to treat yourself with a little bit of that nurture and a little bit of that loving kindness, because you are deserving of it. And the more that we can cut ourselves some slack, the more we can cut some slack to the rest of the world out there. And there's an exercise that I do in my workshops, and I'm just going to offer it to you all to do after our time is over, if it interests you. And that is to write down 3 ways that you were kind to yourself today, or not today, 3 ways you were kind to yourself this week, and 3 ways that you were unkind to yourself this week. And there is no right or wrong answer to this, but it's really an awareness exercise, just to see which one comes more easily to you, which was easier to write. And if you're very kind to yourself, then kudos to you. I'm delighted for you. And if you found it easier to write ways that you were unkind to yourself, then I want you to just consider treating yourself to a little more kindness. And I hope that you would all pick that tuning into this podcast is a way that you are being kind to yourself. So kindness and connection, I really believe, are 2 universal human needs. We want to know that we are connected to other people. And we love the feeling that we get when we either give or receive kindness. But we need to proactively invite them into our lives. And that's what I'm asking and inviting you all to do today, is to proactively invite kindness and connection into your life. And I'm sure most of you have heard of the phrase random acts of kindness. And I am a huge proponent of random acts of kindness. I mean, please go fill the parking meter for somebody that you don't know, or do whatever it is that you do randomly. But I have chosen to actually make kindness more intentional. And that is what I did when I started this year-long journey of writing unexpected letters of appreciation, is that I decided to make kindness intentional. So I want to share with you what this journey was like for me. And I'm certainly not suggesting that you all go on this year-long journey yourself. However, if you would like to, it's awesome. But my husband and I were flying cross country to Portland, Oregon to meet our brand new grandson. And my husband was fully ensconced in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which, if you know that show, I can't handle it. It makes me so uncomfortable. But he's laughing hysterically with his Bose headset on. And I am having this like transformative aha moment. So we were in completely different paths. And I started to think about ways that could bring more joy and happiness into my life. And for my life and wellness coaching clients, I always have them write an unexpected letter of appreciation to somebody, because it gets you out of your own head and it gets you thinking about positive things. And I just decided I wanted to know what it would feel like in my life if I challenged myself to write a letter every day for a year. So I, moved the headset of my husband and had to share with him at that moment what I was doing. And he kind of said, "That's great, honey," and went back to it. But I had actually told somebody, so I had to do it now. And I knew right there, sitting in the airplane, that the first letter I was going to write was going to be to our new grandson, Hudson. And the last letter that I would write would be to my father, who had passed away 34 years ago. And I had no idea who the 363 other letters were going to be, but I figured I would just go on this journey and see what happened. And when I talk about this, so many people say to me, "I had no idea that you would know 365 people. Like, I would never know that many people." And I said, "Of course you do. We all do. We've just never actually thought about it. So, the people I wrote to were the first year obvious group, the most intimate circle of family and friends. Then there's all the people that you work with and you volunteer with and your neighbors and you play your sports with. I wrote to elementary school, high school, college friends. I wrote to friends of my parents. And then there was that whole group that was really almost the most fun. And that was the Miss Davises, the people who I didn't know, but I had an interaction with that was positive. And some of those people I wrote to our mail woman whom I never actually really had met until I did this project. And she has been giving our dog a dog bone every time she delivers the mail. And it is one of the most joyful moments in our house every single day. I don't know whether that's pretty sad and lame, but I got to tell you, it's a really happy thing when the mailman comes. The dog has an internal clock, looks out the window, hears the truck come, goes flying through our kitchen, slides on the laminate floor, misses the doggy door, crashes into the wall, goes to the doggy door, wags the tail, and gets a dog bone. And it makes us so happy. So I, finally went out and I introduced myself to Teresa, and I wrote her, I left a letter for her in the mailbox, and now we have this really lovely relationship. I wrote to the guy at Best Buy who spent literally 2 hours with my husband and myself teaching us how to use our new Android phone. And really, my husband should have actually written that letter because I am the one who needs so much tech support, and usually he has to do that. So this guy was incredibly helpful. I wrote to the waitress at this restaurant who just was so amazing at making us feel like we were the most special guests in the restaurant. I still to this day feel a little bit badly because she probably thought that in this envelope was, like a $500 tip that you hear about. And all she got was a lovely letter of appreciation, but I hope that was still enough for her. And what ended up happening that was very unexpected was that this became a journey in mindfulness. It became a practice in mindfulness for me. I had never even thought about that happening, but I started to slow down and really notice and pay attention to all the interactions in my life. I started to make more conversation with people. I started to listen a little bit more. And it really became a little bit more joyful. I became more fully present in my errands, in my job, and what I did. And then also, I would write a letter every day. And you cannot sit down and write an authentic letter of appreciation and be doing your to-do list. It doesn't work. So if you're going to think about doing that, just don't. Wait till you can be fully present. And so I realized in my life, I was feeling more calm. I was feeling a little bit more, I think, joyful. And that was all just a really sort of unexpected bonus, unexpected benefit to this project. And it deepened my connections to everybody that I wrote to. And one of the most important things I want everyone to know if you start to write these letters is that you need to be writing it for yourself and have no expectation to hear back from the other person. Because writing these letters slows you down, makes you more mindful, brings calm and joy into your life. And if you happen to hear from the other person, the recipient, then that's just a beautiful bonus. So I was certainly enjoying this activity every day, but I will say that I did hear back from hundreds of my letter recipients. And all of their responses are correspondence through email, text, phone, handwritten. I have saved every message. But what became very apparent not too far into this journey was two themes. And the first one was, I ended up hearing the exact same phrase at least 125, 35 times over the course of this journey, the exact same words, which was really surprising to me. And that was, "You made my day." And that's a really powerful feeling, to think that you made somebody's day. Writing that letter made my day. I didn't expect that it would necessarily make somebody else's day. And the more and more I heard that, the more I became just so aware of the fact that people are craving affirmations, that we have the ability to make people's day when we just simply share our kind thoughts. And then the other theme that I heard, quite the opposite, was how many times I heard somebody say some version of, I was in a really bad place and I got your letter. I was having a really bad day and I got your letter. And your letter turned my day around. Your letter really helped me get out of my bad headspace. And I'm here to tell you that most of the time in life, we have no idea what is going on in somebody's life. We really don't. And I think we should never assume that somebody already knows how you feel, or that they don't need to hear what you have to say, or that it's not important enough. People need to hear what you have to say. And I want to share the story that happened, the very unexpected and joyful story that happened to me when I shared the letter that I wrote to my father, who had passed away 34 years ago. So I wrote him this letter, which was a really sort of cathartic, beautiful exercise myself. I mean, just to write the letter was beautiful, but I knew that I wanted to read it out loud to him. And we are lucky enough to have some conservation land behind our house. And there's a beautiful walk that I take almost every day. And there's a meadow, and then there's a lake, and then there's woods. And I had decided that I would read this letter out loud to my dad in the woods. So it was February 9th. It was a gorgeous day, bluebird sky, perfectly clear. And I walked through the meadow, and then I got to the lake, and I somehow felt compelled to stop at the lake. It was absolutely still. There was not a breath of air. The lake looked like glass. And I just decided that this was the appropriate place to read the letter. So I said a little silent prayer that nobody was going to walk by and see the crazy lady reading a letter to nobody. But I just read the letter out loud to my dad. And the very second that I finished speaking, literally the very second I finished speaking, the most incredibly strong, swirling gust of wind came. And I never really thought, I never used the word swirling wind. I never thought about it. This was a swirling wind. It was wrapping around and around and around me. And it was so strong that I lost my balance and had to step backwards to regain my footing. And there is no way that anybody will ever tell me that that was not a hug from my father. I mean, it was absolutely still until that moment. And so I want you all to consider that writing these letters of appreciation can be so beautiful to people who have passed. So it can be to anybody that you want in your life that has touched your heart. But I want to read to you a number of comments that I got about my letters, because it just further reinforces the power of these letters. And it's not that I'm a great letter writer at all. It is simply that I took the time to write them. So I'm just going to read this list. This is what people said to me. I'm going to laminate it. It's a keeper for all time. I will save it forever in my special journal. I want my ancestors to find it and read how fabulous I am. It's on my bulletin board for me to see every day. I never knew I had that impact on you or anyone else. I'm saving the letter in my box to be read as my eulogy and for my kids to read. Your timing was remarkable. You made my heart feel so full, and at a time I really needed it. You literally warmed my entire being to the core. Thank you for the incredibly generous gift of these words. I feel like an angel of mercy landed on my shoulder and hugged my heart today. And no one has ever spoken to me this way. So my friends, when we have nice thoughts, we need to share them. So what I've realized through my hundreds of letters and responses is that people crave being noticed. You know, we all at some point in our life, we fear that we're not enough, that we're not noticed, that we're not good enough, that we're not valued. And what I'm asking you all to do is to help people be seen. And this is not just about personal relationships. This is something that everyone can practice in their work relationships as well. Because there really should be no boundaries between how you treat people in your personal life and how you treat people in your professional life. Kindness, it just doesn't have any boundaries. And I can tell you that when you start making your colleagues and your clients feel valued, your relationships are going to improve, your business is going to get better, because authentic appreciation, it builds collaboration, it builds motivation, both in the workplace and at home. And people value knowing that. And what I know for sure is that when we treat people with kindness and respect, we are a more productive society. So my own year-long project was like a research study to me. But I just want to share a couple of studies that are out there from organizations that are a little more professional than mine, just to reinforce that this is really something that has some weight to it. So the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, they conducted a study where they wanted to see what are the barriers that are keeping people from writing letters of appreciation. And they talked to both the recipients and the letter writers. And what they found is that the letter writers, 100% of the time, underestimated the positive impact of their letter. They were afraid people would think they were weird, that they had poor grammar, that it would be taken the wrong way, that it was just such a strange thing to do. They were afraid to get vulnerable. No one likes to get vulnerable, right? We want to be in control. But what they found when they talked to all the letter recipients was that 100% of the time, the letter recipients were overwhelmed by the warmth of the gesture. And I want you all to remember that. The recipients were overwhelmed by the warmth of the gesture. It doesn't matter the content. I mean, yes, that matters, but the content is not as important as actually the act that you took the time to find a piece of paper and a pen and a stamp and an address, and that you actually wrote to somebody. And another study by Kent State University, they wanted to find out how did doing these letters affect the well-being of the letter writer. And they wanted to look at happiness, life satisfaction, and depression. And they took 219 students, and they had them come to a big auditorium once a week for 3 weeks. And they had everybody take a survey around those 3 areas of well-being. And at the end of the survey each week, half the group left, and that's all they had to do. And the other half stayed and wrote letters of appreciation. And what they found at the end of the study is that all of the people who just did the survey, pretty obviously, had no change in their well-being. But the people who wrote the letters of appreciation had a significant increase in their happiness and their life satisfaction. And very surprisingly, they found that their depression was reduced. And what they realized is that writing these letters of appreciation, it shifts our attention from negative ruminating to positive emotions. And those positive emotions end up staying with us for some period of time. It doesn't end as soon as you finish addressing the envelope. So it shifts negative ruminating to positive emotions. So what I want to suggest to all of you is that you stop sprinting through your life. You all slow down a little bit, and you start to notice your environment. You notice the people in it. You start listening more. You start engaging in conversation. There are so many missed opportunities for connection. And I'm not saying that you write a note to everybody that you speak to, but when you have a moment that you really connect with somebody, I want you to consider just jotting down a note, and don't overthink it. I have one other story that I'm going to share with you quickly, and it's another one that's sort of similar to Miss Davis, but it just warms my heart. So I don't drink coffee, but I love chai latte, and I'm always looking for a new place to get a good chai latte. And a new coffee shop opened in our town. So I went in to try out their chai latte, and there was a line of people. And so I was watching the barista as she helped everybody. And I did what I tell people not to do, and that was a little bit of judging, because I thought this woman was not being particularly friendly. they're a brand new place, and I thought she should be maybe a little warmer. So, and she was probably in her 60s or her 70s. So when it was my turn, I got up there and I didn't see chai latte on the menu. And I asked if she had it. And she stopped. She kind of deadpanned, took a second. And then she looked at me and she said, I'm going to make you the best chai latte you have ever had. And it was such an unexpected response. So I said the only thing that I could think of, which was, well, that's a ballsy statement. Game on. Let's see what you got. So we started this sort of fun, just chatting back and forth while she made it. And then she put it down in front of me and she said, okay, go on, have a sip. And I tasted it, and I will take it to the grave. It was the best chai latte I have ever had in my entire life. And I said, what is your name? And she said, Cynthia. And I said, Cynthia, thank you so much. I will definitely be back. So I walked out of the shop and I just had a smile on my face. It was just, I felt better when I left the shop than when I went in. So of course I went home and I wrote my letter to Cynthia. And the next day I dropped it off. She was not working and I left it with the owner. And she promised to give it to her. And I went back 2 weeks later and I walk in and Cynthia was making a coffee for a gentleman. And she heard the door open and she knew somebody was there, but she didn't turn around. And she kind of looked over her shoulder and she said, what can I get you? And I said, I'll have the best chai latte ever. And so with that, the poor guy who was getting the coffee, she completely stopped making his coffee. She turned around, her eyes immediately filled with tears. And she said almost the same thing that Miss Davis said. She said, I have been doing this for decades and nobody has ever done that for me before. And she said, you made my day, my week, my month, my year. It's on my dresser at home. And I've been reading it every day before I come to work. And then she gave me another pre-COVID huge hug. And Cynthia and I struck up, a lovely relationship. So I hope that you can all go out there and find some of your own exhilarating, beautiful stories to share. And I want to just let you know that this is what I write my notes on. So this is some stationery that I've designed myself. It says a few kind words, but I would write here and I would write here. Sometimes I wrote on the back, but that's what my letters entailed. They're not long. They're just as simple as you want them to be. And a lot of people say, well, I don't even know how you would write one. And I just want to give you a couple of quick tips on writing these letters. So first of all, don't ever assume that somebody already knows how you feel. Even if they do, your letter is going to be a treasure to them. So keep that in mind when you sit down to do this. And I have what I call the 3 S's. So first, it must be sincere. They will know if you are faking it. Do not try to fake it. Sincerity is what this is all about. If you don't really mean it, then go do something else. The second thing is keep it simple. Like I said, it doesn't have to be that long. Sincerity is not about length. So don't overthink it. Just write from the heart and keep it simple. And the third thing is to be specific. And that's really an important one. Don't just say you appreciate them, but tell them why you appreciate them. That's really where the magic lies. And another thing that I do that it's important to me, and I just offer it to you all, but you can choose to do this or not, is that I never say thank you in my letters. And that's actually a challenge. It's something that you have to kind of get used to doing. We are all taught, hopefully, to say please and thank you all the time. And thank you has its place in this world. Please say it often. But sometimes it is said by rote. And when you write, I appreciate you and this is why, it becomes a little more thoughtful. You had to take a little bit of time and figure out what is it about somebody that became so meaningful enough to write. So I want you all to remember that every kind thought you have about somebody is really a gift that can fill a void in somebody's life. And we always have a choice. And that choice is to share the kind thoughts that we have or to choose to keep them to ourselves. And in this world, so often people share the judgmental thoughts more freely than they share the kind, loving thoughts. And I just hope that you might all join me on this mission to share our kind thoughts give the gift of a few kind words, and let's make this world a little kinder. So that's what I have to say, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I will say there was a few comments that came through. So Tina said it was so beautiful. And Monica said it just happened to her today and she felt loved. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad, Monica. If you're still on, I'm thrilled for you. And thank you for reinforcing that it feels great to receive something like that. And remember, it feels great to write it as well. Yeah.
If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or the Q&A box, or if you want to raise your hand, you can come on. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I have a ton of questions, but so you kind of answered some of them. I was kind of writing some down as you were going along. So did you send all of your letters? No, I know you didn't. So you sent some through the mail. Was that your intention? Is to send everything through the mail if you can?
Not necessarily, although that is how I did most of it. The idea for me is that it's handwritten. So for people like Miss Davis and Cynthia, I just left it at the store, or I gave it to them, or I left it for the waitress. And I think that's, whatever feels best for you. I think there's something special about getting something in the mail. You kind of go, ooh, what's this? To me, the special part is handwritten, because it is something that is saved, like I said, a lot more often than an email or a text.
So did you have to kind of go and get a bunch of addresses?
It is so.
I'm thinking I have letters of appreciation that I would love to send, but I'm like, I don't have anybody's address anymore. So
Okay, well that is one of the most asked questions that I get, which is so funny to me because I never really overthought that. But yes, it can be a little bit of a challenge, but there is that cool thing called the internet and Google, and it's amazing what you can find. I mean, I did a lot of whitepages.com. It's just amazing. You can actually find,
really?
I would just type in, what is the address for Renee Roberts? And
oh my God.
Sometimes you'll find it and sometimes not. And, sometimes I asked other people who knew them. And so it does take a little bit of work. But it's worth it, I think. Yeah.
So you said you kept note cards. Were those the cards you showed us? Were those the cards that you keep in your purse, or did you just have
those are the cards that I kept with me in my purse.
Okay.
So it's just a fold over note card. I do sell these cards in packages of 8. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to offer them to you. But I really just want you all to know that the length of it doesn't matter. You could write just just one part of it here is all that needs to be done. If you're saying 2 nice sentences about somebody, and then of course if you want to write a longer letter, go for it.
Awesome. We get some comments coming in. Tina said she wrote a letter to her deceased brother and she felt the smell of coffee when she finished talking to him.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad you did that. Lovely.
Yeah, and then Monica said she so enjoyed the presentation. And she asked, how did you go about getting addresses? So we just talked about that. I can see that's a common question, because I'm thinking, how do I send? But it's a really, really neat concept. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I will also say that the younger generation, things that never cross. I mean, I get the question about the addresses. The younger generation says, I don't even have stamps. I mean, I'd be like, okay, I'm dating myself, but can you please go buy a roll of stamps? Like, it's not that bad to have stamps in your house. It's okay to have a piece of paper that you can touch. The millennials or whatever, they just want to do everything online. And please, if you can't find the address, you don't have a stamp, send an email, send a text, call the person and tell them. For me personally, there's something special about the handwriting. But the idea is to share your kind thought in whatever way is most meaningful or easiest for you to make sure it gets done. So I have a website called a fewkindwords.net. And I sort of talk about my journey, but I also do these workshops on Zoom, and I love to do them in person, which we hadn't done in a while. But if you're in the New Jersey area, I'm happy to do that. So a fewkindwords.net, and you know, my life and wellness coaching, I do offer you know, a free 45-minute session to get to know one another, if that's something that you're interested in. So, you know, look me up, and I'd love to hear from you.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I think you've answered everything. Oh, one question I did want to ask, because I wrote down, is did you, when you were doing the year-long challenge, did you schedule time in your day to actually sit down and write a letter? Like, did you do one letter each day?
So I tried to be very methodical. I tried to say I'm going to do it every morning, you know, like before my day gets away from me, and I totally failed. So I ended up doing it whenever I could, you know, all different times of the day. And I will tell you that there were more than a few times when I was this close to deep sleep, when I went, oh my God, I didn't write my letter. And I got back up and put on my bathrobe and went into the cold kitchen and wrote a letter at, you know, at midnight. But for the most part, I tried to write them in the morning. And there were a couple of days where I wrote 2 in one day, because for whatever reason I missed one. But I was very diligent about trying to do 1 a day. And listen, if anybody wants to do that, it's a phenomenal project, or do 1 a day for a month. But I just hope that you'll write 1 in your life, or 10, or whatever, you know. Just if you have a nice thought, share it, because you just cannot believe how you can make somebody's day. And, you know, this world it needs a shot in the arm, right, of positivity and love and kindness.
Yeah. All right. So I do have a question. I do have another one. Did you get any negative responses?
No,
No?
not a one. And I've written
That's awesome.
many more letters than 365 now. I can't say that it'll never happen, but I did not experience one negative aspect of this project as long as I've been doing it. I mean, if it's authentic, it's kind of hard to backfire.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
There is hope for us all.
There's hope. I mean, I hope I don't ever get a negative response. I'm going to keep doing it. And if I did, I would really reach out to that person and say, please, let's talk in person. I want to understand, because that wasn't my intention. There was a miscommunication somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it is almost the up to the hour. So if there are no other questions, I want to thank you, Tracey. This was a wonderful talk. Like, it was very emotional for me. I was like, wow, some of the responses. And, you know, again, I want to thank all of the attendees for spending your time with us tonight. I hope you appreciated it and were able to get something out of this. I'm certainly going to try to do this. I think it's a very interesting exercise. I won't write 1 a day, I can tell you that. But even like you said, just to do 1 or a few, I think it'd be interesting to see how it would make me feel and other people feel. So I'm certainly excited about doing something like this for sure.
Wonderful.
And I'm glad you were able to come on and talk about it. So thank you.
Great. Well, I hope you have some good success, and I'd love to hear people's stories. So reach out to me if anybody has any fun stories that result from this.
Yeah,
and I wish you all a wonderful holiday.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will send you guys Tracey's information with the replay of this. And thank you. And I'll wish everyone a good night and give everybody a few minutes back. So thank you. Thank you, Tracey. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Renee. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.